Good evening. Welcome to St. Paul's United Methodist Church on this very special Maundy Thursday experience where we are reminded, and I pray we are also remembered to, the journey Jesus took in his last days on this earth before his ultimate death and resurrection. A special welcome to those guests that are among us this evening. We are so very grateful that you have chosen to be with us to experience this with the many folks that have worked to make this experience a wonderful one. If you need anything, we'll have some ushers here available. The restrooms, those of you that may not be familiar with our facility, if you exit the sanctuary to the rear and turn right down the hallway, there are restrooms for you there. A couple of thank yous before we begin our program. A huge thank you to Greg Thompson. Many of you know Greg. Greg is the producing artistic director at Ocala Civic Theater, and he graciously agreed to help us with narration of this beautiful experience, and so we are indebted to him. Thank you so much, Greg. To our choir, who have been working for weeks, to our choir leadership, to our accompanist, Deb Pritz and Beth McCall, our director, we are so very grateful for the way you are leading us in this season. You are asked at this time, if you have not done so, if you would silence your cell phones at this time. That would be a great benefit to our musicians and our leadership this evening. At the end of our program, our dismissal will be more of a silent dismissal. Because of the nature of what we are remembered to this evening, this Thursday of Holy Week, you will be asked to depart in reverence and in silence. So just know that when the time comes and you see on the screens your departure, that will be your dismissal to exit the sanctuary this evening, as we will exit in darkness, looking towards the light that comes on Easter morning. Before we begin our program, it is our tradition here to pause and to try to be still, to try to be silent for just a couple seconds as we enter into what God has in store for us. So if you would join us, we'll take about 10 to 15 seconds of silence before our program begins.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being, in him was life, and that life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot be overtaken. There was a man sent from God named John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all who might believe would be saved. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light, the true light. The light is for everyone and is coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, but the world did not know him. He came to what was of him, and yet those who were of the world did not accept him. So that those who would believe in him, who would accept him, would be saved and would be given the power to become children of God. Indeed, God did not send the Son of God into the world to condemn it, but that all might be saved through him. Those who believed in him are not condemned, but those who do not are already condemned, because they do not believe in the name of the Son of God. And this is the judgment, that the light has come into the world. People love the darkness more than the light, because their deeds are evil. For all who do evil do not come to the light, because they are afraid that their deeds will be seen. But those who love the light will come to the light. They will do what is true, so that they will be clearly seen to be doing what they are doing in God. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples prepared the Passover meal as Jesus had directed them. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12 disciples, and while they were eating, he said, "Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another, "Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "The one who has dipped his hand written of him. But woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one to have never been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not. I, Rabbi." He replied, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
Children, I am with you but a little while. Where I go, you cannot follow. You will seek, but will not find me. Still you know that I am the way. Don't be troubled that I say I go. Don't be troubled that I go. It's best I go now. I'll make a place for you, and I'll come to take you someday. Take and eat, my body's broken now for you. Take and drink the blood I offer. What I do for you, you know not. If you love me, you will obey. I will send the Holy Spirit to you, to lead you in truth, to guide what you do. He'll remind you then of all I have said, and I will always be with you. Children, I am with you, but Children, I am with you, but you cannot follow. You will not find me. Still you know that I am the way. Still you know that
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "So could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray, that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, for the 2nd time, he went away and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. He left them for a 3rd time and prayed, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Now the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. Look, my betrayer is at hand."
We would ask that you please stand and join us. On your program is the hymn, "Go to Dark Gethsemane."
While he was still speaking, suddenly a crowd came, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, and Jesus said to him, "Judas, is it with a kiss that you are betraying the Son of Man?" When those who were around him saw what was coming, they asked, "Lord, should we strike with the sword?" Then one of them struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, "No more of this." He touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple police, and the elders who had come for him, "Have you come out with swords and clubs as though I were a rebel? When I was with you day after day in the temple, you did not lay hands on me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness." As soon as it was morning, the chief priests met with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to the Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you." To Pilate's amazement, Jesus made no further reply. Now at the festival, he used to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. There was a man called Barabbas who was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder during the insurrection. And the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his own customs. Then he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have them release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man that you call the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him!" So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
His
As they led him away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and they laid the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A great number of the people followed him, and among them were women who were beating their breasts and wailing for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do this, when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" To others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the two criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothes. And the people stood by watching, while the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." And above his head they placed an inscription, "This is the King of the Jews." From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Around 3, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani? My God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was himself a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and Pilate ordered it be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in a new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away.
Take your rest, dear Jesus, here in Joseph's tomb. In this quiet garden, where fragrant lilies bloom, gone the hours of suffering, gone the piercing pain, gone the doubt and sorrow. Now only rest remains. Gone the shouts and taunting, gone the chasing rod, gone the thorns and pain. Now rest awhile with God. Take your rest, dear Jesus, in the darkening gloom. Rest awhile, dear Jesus, the dawn is dawning.